Your cat walks past a full water bowl every single day and then drinks out of the bathtub tap instead. Most people think that is just cats being strange, and it is not. It is the reason more cats die of kidney failure than anything else, and the fix is free and already sitting in your kitchen. So why has nobody ever told you what actually goes in the bowl? It is 5:20 in the morning, and there is a small blue dish on my kitchen floor. In it, there are 3 ounces of food and 1 tablespoon of warm tap water, stirred through with a fork until the whole thing goes soupy. My cat is 14 years old. Her name is Junie. She has eaten it exactly that way every morning for the last 6 years, and her kidney numbers have not moved in 4 of them. That tablespoon is the entire video. I'm going to spend the rest of this telling you why it works, how to build up to it without your cat turning her back on the dish and walking out of the room, and what to watch every week so you catch trouble 2 years before it ever shows on her face. My name is Ruth Callahan. I was a veterinary nurse for 31 years in a small animal clinic. I have held more cats for blood draws than I could count. I have stood in the room while people were told the news. And I want to be honest with you before I go any further, because I think you should know who is talking. I knew all of this, and I still lost my own cat. Her name was Pepper. She was a gray tabby, and she was 11 years old, and she ate dry food out of a full bowl on a mat by the back door for her whole life. And there was always fresh water beside it, and I thought that meant I had done my job. I was wrong about it. I was wrong about it while working in a veterinary clinic. That is how quiet this thing is. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. There was an orange tabby who came into our clinic on a Tuesday in March. His name was Gus. 9 years old, big square head, the kind of cat who lies on his back in the sun with no dignity at all. His owner was a retired mailman named Dennis. Dennis did not bring him in because Gus was sick. He brought him in for a nail trim, and while I had Gus on the table, Dennis pulled out his phone and showed me a photo he was very pleased with. It was Gus, up on the edge of the bathtub, drinking out of the dripping tap. Dennis thought it was the funniest thing his cat had ever done. He had been showing that photo to people for about 8 months. That is the part I need you to hear. 8 months. 8. We ran blood work that day because I asked him to, and I asked him to because of the photo, not because of anything else. Gus was in kidney failure, not the end of it, but a good way down the road, far enough that Dennis spent the next 2 years giving fluids under the skin at his own kitchen table twice a week with a bag hung off a curtain rod. He learned to do it. Most people do. But he did not have to end up there. So let me fix something in your head right now, and this is the first thing. A cat who suddenly starts drinking a lot of water is not a healthy cat. That is not a cat who finally figured out hydration. When a cat starts hitting the tap, the toilet, the shower floor, the dog's bowl, the glass on your nightstand, that is a body trying to flush something out that it can no longer concentrate properly. It is one of the earliest signs we get, and it is almost always read as cute. People film it. They do not call about it. Here is where we are. Roughly 1 in 3 cats over the age of 10 has kidney disease. By the time you get up into the mid-teens, it is most of them. It is the single most common thing that takes an old cat, and it is very slow, and it does not hurt in a way you can see. And a cat will go on jumping up onto the counter and yelling at you for breakfast until a great deal of the working tissue is already gone. There is no swelling, there is no limp, there is nothing to point at. And there is a faster version of this that I need you to know about too, and it is mostly a male cat problem. Male cats have a narrow tube on the way out, and when the urine gets too concentrated for too long, you get crystals and grit and mucus, and it can plug like a clogged drain. When that happens, the cat cannot pass anything at all. He goes in the box, strains, nothing comes, gets up, goes back 10 minutes later, strains, nothing comes. That is a cat who will die in a day or two if he does not get to a hospital, and the emergency bill on that runs somewhere between $1,800 and $3,000 in most cities, if you are lucky enough to catch it in time. I have watched that come through the door at 2 in the morning more times than I want to think about. So here's the question. If she eats fine, and she looks fine, and the bowl on the mat goes down a little bit every day the way it always has, how on earth would you ever know? And what exactly is it that goes in the bowl? Let me tell you why this happens at all, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and everything after this gets simple. Your cat is a desert animal wearing a house cat suit. That is not a figure of speech. The animal she came from is the African wildcat, and it is still out there right now, living across North Africa and the Middle East and up into Central Asia, in country that is dry, hard, hot, and short of water. Now think about what that means. There were no water bowls out there. There were no streams a short walk from the couch. There were no taps. An animal living in that country cannot afford to depend on finding a puddle, so it does not. Everything she needed came in already, inside whatever she caught. Here are the numbers, and these numbers are the whole video. A mouse is about 70% water. A bird is about 70% water. A lizard, a vole, a rabbit, all right about there. So a cat eating the way a cat was built to eat gets nearly all her water from her food and almost none of it from drinking. She never needed a strong thirst signal, so she never grew one. Hers is weak. It is supposed to be weak. It is not a flaw. Now look at what is in the bowl on your kitchen floor. Canned food is about 75% water. That is close to a mouse. That is the whole point. Dry food is about 8% water. 8. That is not a small gap. That is not something you close by leaving a nice clean bowl of water beside it. And here is the part almost everybody gets wrong. And I got wrong. And I had a license. People assume the cat makes it up on her own. They assume she gets thirsty and drinks more. And she does drink more. She is not stupid. Put a cat on dry food, and she will visit that bowl more often than a cat on wet food will. But she does not drink enough. She never does. When people have actually measured this over and over, the cat eating dry food ends up taking in something close to half the total water of the cat eating wet. Half, every day, for 15 years. She is not falling over. She is not sick. She is just running a little dry all the time, and her kidneys are doing more work per day than they were designed to do, and her urine is more concentrated than it ought to be every single day, from the time she is 2 years old until the day the blood work finally shows it. That is the whole mechanism. It is not dramatic, it is a slow grind. Now let me put the two sides next to each other, because it will make you angry, and I think it should. Walk into any pet store and go down the aisle. There is a bag of prescription kidney food for $70 to $90. There are tubs of kidney support powder for $40. There are supplements with a cat and a sunrise on the label that I could not tell you the first thing about. And past all of that, at the far end of it, there is an emergency clinic with a $2,400 bill for a blocked cat at 2 in the morning. Now walk into your own kitchen and turn on the hot tap and hold a spoon under it. Free. Free tonight, free tomorrow, free for the rest of her life. Same problem. And this is the truth that reframes the whole thing, so listen close. The water bowl is a trap, not because there is anything wrong with it. Keep it, fill it. The trap is that it makes you feel like you dealt with this and you did not deal with it. You cannot get water into a cat by offering it to her. She will not take you up on it. She was not built to take you up on it. You have to hide it. The bowl is optional to her. The food is not. So the water goes in the food. That is it. That is the secret, and I will say it plain, so nobody has to wait around for a big reveal. There is no this. There is no powder, no oil, no supplement, no root, no thing you buy. It is water, warm water. And the entire trick, the only trick, is where you put it. So why has nobody said this to you? I want to be careful here because I am not going to sit and tell you that vets are hiding something from you. And if anybody tells you that you should be careful with them, vets do say this. I heard it said in our exam rooms 1,000 times. The trouble is that it takes 4 seconds to say, it sounds like absolutely nothing. And it lands somewhere between the vaccine and the nail trim in a 12-minute appointment where the cat is already yelling and you are already thinking about the bill. Add some wet food, encourage water, it goes right past you. It went right past me, and I was standing in the room. And I will say the other half of it, too. There is no money in a tablespoon of tap water. Nobody builds a display stand for it. Nobody runs an ad for it. So it never gets said loud. All right, here is how you actually do it, in order, and please do it in order, because the fastest way to fail at this is to do the right thing too quickly. Step 1 is the tablespoon. Tonight, at her regular meal, Put 1 tablespoon of warm water in with her food and stir it. That is all step 1 is. But there is a trick inside it, and this is the one people skip. The water has to be warm, not hot. Body temperature, about 100 degrees. The temperature of a fresh cup of tea you left too long. Run your wrist under it the way you would test a bottle. The reason is that a cat does not eat with her eyes. She eats with her nose, and warmth lifts the smell up out of the food. Cold water does the opposite. It flattens everything, and the dish goes quiet, and she walks away. And you conclude that your cat will not accept water in her food. Your cat will accept water in her food. She will not accept cold, dead-smelling food. Step 2 is the 10-day climb. Every 3 days, you add 1 more teaspoon. That is it. That is the pace. From 1 tablespoon, you go to 4 teaspoons, then 5, and you keep climbing until you are at about a 1/4 cup of water per wet meal, which turns a pouch of food into something closer to a thin stew. The trick here is what you do when she refuses, because she might. If she turns her back on the dish, you do not push and you do not give up. You go back down 1 step to the amount she was taking happily, and you sit there for a full week before you try again. The cat who quits this is almost always the cat whose owner jumped. Slow wins. 10 days is nothing. Step 3 is 1 wet meal. If your cat is on dry food only, you do not have to convert her whole life tomorrow. Get 1 wet meal in per day. 1 pouch, 1 small can, 85 grams, somewhere between 80 cents and $1.50. 1 a day changes her numbers. And here's the trick for a hardened, dry food cat who looks at wet food like you have insulted her, which is a real thing, and I have met plenty of them. Mash it. Take the pouch, add 2 tablespoons of warm water, and work it with a fork until there are no lumps at all. Because a lot of these cats do not object to wet food. They object to the texture of chunks. And for the first week only, you can pour on a small splash of the water out of a can of tuna, the kind packed in water with no salt added. It is a bribe. Bribes are allowed. You drop it after a week. Step 4 is the wide bowl and the second station. Use a shallow, wide ceramic dish for her water rather than a deep, narrow one, and set it well away from her food, on the other side of the room or in a different room altogether. I will be straight with you about the whisker thing, because you will see people online insist that deep bowls hurt a cat's whiskers, and that is why she will not drink. The evidence on that is thin.
I am not going to tell you it is settled. What I will tell you is that a wide, shallow bowl costs $6, cannot possibly hurt. And I have watched cats drink more from one, so use one. Then put a second water station somewhere else in the house entirely. Upstairs, by the window she likes. Cats drink more when water shows up in more than one place.
And if you want to spend money on exactly one thing in this whole video, make it a drinking fountain. A Cat at Flower or a pet-safe drink well runs about $25 to $40, and the moving water gets some cats drinking noticeably more. Some, not all. Mine ignored hers for 3 weeks and then decided it was the only acceptable water in the building. But you must take it apart and scrub it once a week, filter and all, because a dirty fountain is worse than a plain bowl, and it will slime up faster than you expect. Step 5 is the Monday morning weigh. Buy a $12 digital kitchen scale, the flat kind you would weigh flour on. Put a folded towel on it, zero it out, and set her on it once a week at the same time. Write the number on the calendar. Here is why this one matters more than anything else on this list. A cat losing 4 ounces a month looks exactly the same as a cat losing nothing. Exactly the same. You see her every day, so you see nothing. And that is not your fault. That is how eyes work. The scale sees it about 6 months before you do, and 6 months is a very long time in this. Step 6 is reading the box. When you scoop, look. Count the clumps and notice the size. You want to know her normal so that a change shouts at you. And the trick here is the one that catches people out, because more urine feels like a win. It is not a win. Clumps getting bigger and more frequent is one of the first things kidney trouble does, and it usually shows up months before anything else. And if you have a male cat going into the box, straining, coming out, and going straight back in with nothing to show for it, that is not a wait until Monday problem. That is tonight, right now. Step 7 is the yearly number, and this is the one to write down. Once your cat turns 7, ask for full blood work every year, and ask specifically for the SDMA by name. Say those 4 letters. It is a marker that flags kidney decline meaningfully earlier than the older test everybody has been running for decades, and it is a small add-on to blood work you are doing anyway. If you catch this at the beginning instead of the middle, you are talking about years. Now, the short list of things not to do, and please take these seriously. Do not give her cow's milk. Most adult cats cannot handle it, and you will trade a hydration problem for a diarrhea problem, which loses you water instead of gaining it. Do not add salt to her food to make her thirsty. I have heard people suggest that. It is dangerous, and if she has any heart trouble, it is worse than dangerous. Do not use broth or stock from your own kitchen unless you are certain there is no onion and no garlic in it, because both are toxic to cats, and both are in nearly every stock cube on the shelf. And do not start any supplement without asking your vet first. If your cat is already on a prescription diet or has a diagnosed heart condition, ring the clinic before you change one thing about how she eats. Let me pull back now because I do not want you to leave here thinking this is about a spoon. Kidney disease in cats does not get cured. I am not going to stand here and tell you a tablespoon of tap water cures anything, because it does not. And anyone who says otherwise is selling. What it does is manage. This is a managed disease, and management is entirely a question of how early you got there. A cat caught at the beginning of it, with the food adjusted and the water up and blood work every year, very often has years ahead of her, good ones on the windowsill, in the sun, yelling at you at 5:30 in the morning. A cat caught late has months, and a lot of them are hard. Same cat, same disease. The only difference is when somebody noticed. Then there is the money, and I do not think it is crude to talk about it, because for a lot of people, the money is what decides how the story ends. The water is free. The wide bowl is $6. The scale is $12. The fountain, if you want one, is $30. Call it $50 once, ever. On the other side of it is a night in the emergency clinic, a catheter, a hospital stay, bags of fluid, and a bill that has ended in a decision no one should have to make on a linoleum floor at 3 in the morning while they are still in their coat. I have stood beside people while they made that decision because of money and not because of medicine. I would not wish it on anybody. But the real thing, and I will say it plain, is mornings. That is what this actually buys you, not a number on a lab report. Mornings. 2 more years is somewhere around 700 of them. And every one of them has a cat in it stepping on your chest at 5:15 because the dish is empty and you are apparently staff. My grandmother kept barn cats, 20 of them at a time, working cats. And she was not sentimental about a great deal in this life, but she knew those animals. And she told me something when I was maybe 9 years old that I have carried through 31 years of clinical work. And it is the only sentence from all of this I would ask you to keep. She said, a cat will never tell you that she is sick. She will only tell you when she can no longer hide it. That is it. That is the whole job. Everything I have ever done in a clinic, every blood draw and every scale and every question about a photo of a cat on a bathtub has been one long attempt to get in front of that sentence. Because by the time a cat is showing you, she has been carrying it a long while on her own. So here's what I want you to do tonight. Not this weekend, tonight. When you feed her, run the tap until it is warm, put 1 tablespoon in the dish, and stir it through. That is it. That is the entire first move, and it costs you nothing and takes 11 seconds. Then find your kitchen scale, put a towel on it, set her on it, and write the number on the calendar with today's date next to it. In 4 weeks, you will have something that no amount of looking at her could ever give you. Then come tell me in the comments. Tell me her name, tell me how old she is, and tell me whether she took the water on the first try or gave you a look and walked out. I read them. I answer the ones I can. And if you are the person who scrolls down here after 8 months of thinking the tap thing was cute, do not feel bad about it. Just go and book the blood work, because I did the same thing with my own cat and I knew better. Next time, I am going to tell you why old cats stop using the litter box, and it is almost never the box. It is 1 inch of lip height and 1 closed door at the end of a hallway, and there is a fix that costs about $4 and takes 5 minutes with a pair of tin snips. Most people rehome a cat over this. They never had to. Until then, keep the water warm, keep the scale by the door, and pay attention to the small things while they are still small.